Hey, my fellow guitar players. Today we're going to do something a little bit different. I did have some requests on individuals or subscribers that wanted to see how to change strings. This may be an elementary thing for a lot of you guys out there who've been playing for a while, but understand that we're trying to reach all levels of players. So let's go ahead and let's talk about the things that I use when I actually change my strings. And now I will tell you that everybody's technique is a little bit different, and there's those of you out there that may disagree. Let's keep the comments positive. This is about growing a community of like-minded people. So the first thing I would tell you you need to get little wire snips. And I'm going to put a link down in the description to each one of these things. These are great for clipping off your strings once you get them all tied on. Don't be that weird guy that has his strings all over the place, and that's just very, very annoying. So good thing to have right here. Next thing, very, very valuable tool. Little string winder. This thing will turn your strings a lot quicker to put them on. Plus it does have a little notch out right down there where you can get the pins out of the bridge. And that way it makes it a lot easier than having to use a pair of pliers or something. Next, I usually have a towel and I have a little bit of a damp end to it, and the rest of it's going to be a dry end. And I'll show you how I'm going to use that. And then finally, my favorite thing is once all the strings are off, and I've dressed the neck, wiped it down, got all the grit and grime off of there, lemon oil. Lemon oil is amazing. It makes your guitar smell good too. I usually put, one coating on. Sometimes I'll put 2 coatings on, but it will soak into the wood, and it really is good for the neck. So you'll see this during the entire process, and as again, I'll have all this in the description so that you guys can find these items online. But let's go ahead and try and do guitar strings in front of this camera, which is going to be very, very difficult. Let me grab my guitar. All right, guys, one thing to take note is where the strings come up here on the tuning pegs. You'll notice that all the strings are wound so that they all run on the inside of the pins. So you want to make sure they don't go on the outside, they go on the inside. Also, down here on your bridge where you've got your bridge pins, which is where you're going to use this little tool to just hook in there and pull them out once they're all detuned, I like to keep them in order. And the reason why that is because I'm a firm believer that your guitar has set itself up with whatever components it's been working with. So I feel personally, no verification of this, I feel personally that this pin is going to be different if I put it down here. So I try to make sure I put them all in order. So what we're going to go ahead and do first is we're going to go ahead and we're going to loosen each string. Takes quite a bit of winding, but this is definitely faster than using your hands to do so. Once you get it down to the point where you can pull it off like that, you should be able to just unwrap it right here, pull it off, and then I'm going to show you down here how this tool comes in handy. You just simply take this and hook it around the pin there, and it just comes right out. And then discard of your old strings. So some people may ask, well, how do you know when you need to change your strings? Well, they get dull sounding. A lot of times, like I can look down on mine right here and I can see some fraying happening on the strings, but the dullness and the fraying are probably the most common thing. If you don't change your strings very often, you might find that they're actually rusty if you're not putting them in your case. That's a very common thing. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and speed ahead, get all the rest of these strings off, and I'll show you the next step. All right, guys, we got all the strings off. Now, I probably need to do a little safety thing here with you guys and warn you that changing strings is not always the safest thing in the world. And what I mean is, there's plenty of times where I'll cut myself on the ends of the strings. And also, they do have sharp ends on them and everything. So it's probably not a bad idea if you wear some glasses. I am not an example of good safety. Okay, guys, now that we've got all the strings off, everything's off of there, what I like to do first of all before I do anything with the neck is just take the opportunity to wipe the guitar down, get any of the body oils off of it, make her nice and clean. Do the front, do the back. Keep her like you like to take care of her. All right, so now for the fun part. We used to have a saying amongst band players that the stuff that accumulates on your neck here is called finger cheese. So I'm gonna go ahead and start cleaning this off here and show you what kind of grime comes off. And while I'm doing that, I'll tell you a little story. I played in this band and we had a record deal, and we had this lady that lived out in Arizona, and she wanted to know if we would possibly send her our discarded strings when we changed them. To me, that's the grossest thing, because strings are full of grease, dirt, and everything else, but that's exactly what we did. We sent it on to her, and she thanked us. So this is not too bad. I'm really surprised, but you're always going to have a little bit of dirt that comes off of that, no matter how many times you do this. And I usually do it a couple times. I have had people comment in my videos of how clean my neck looks on here, and it's all because I do a lot of extra work when it comes to changing my strings. All right, I'm not going to bore you with details. I'm going to keep on going on this and get her all finished up. Before we get into putting on the strings, I'm going to do the next step, which was the lemon oil. So simply all I do is take a little bit of the oil here, and I'll just dab some on here. It doesn't take very much. Now, this is not lemon juice. This is actual lemon oil. And I just take it and just rub it across there. Just do a light coating. And you'll see, if you can, it'll be shiny for a little while, and then eventually it won't be anymore. Get your guitar smelling like Lemon Pledge. And a little bit of dirt will come off of that as well. Put another bit on there. Okay, we're done with the rag now. We don't need that anymore. So now we're up to the strings, and I'm going to show you guys what I use. I've used these for years. Taylor Guitars actually suggested the 1356 Elixirs for their guitars, but I think it's only because they had entered into an agreement with Elixir, but now they are suggesting D'Addario X's, which the other guitar that I have in most of my videos has 12s on them, and these got 13s. I will tell you guys that if you decide to change your strings gauges, if you're going from a 12 to a 13 or from a 13 to a 12, I wouldn't take care of that yourself. I don't even do that. I usually hand it off to a professional to take care of, because there is going to be some minor adjustments when you go from one string gauge to another. And it will affect your sound as well. Heavier strings are going to have more of a deeper end to them. They do tend to be a little bit harder on the guitar, on heavier weight. And on the lighter strings, obviously, they have a lot lighter sound. All right, so let's go ahead and grab the first string. Okay, guys, we've got our first one. I usually like to start with the high E string. Take that out. Trash. You always have a lot of leftover trash when it comes to doing strings, especially when you start clipping them off and you have all these little things around. Okay, so on your end of your string, you're going to have your little notch, we'll call it. You want to make sure that that notch goes in correctly. I like to do it where there's a seam down the middle into the hole, and then do the push pin right along with it, so that there's a little recess on this push pin that will help it. And once I get it in there, then I like to pull up on it and kind of set it in there. But I will tell you that there's going to be another step where you're going to want to make sure you push down on this pin. Now, the way I do it, come down here, make sure you turn your peg until you see the open hole that is facing this direction. And there we have it. Feed it through. Remember, you're going to want to wind to the inside, so you want that string to lay on this inside. So you want to make sure you don't have too much. Usually about that much is really good. And then just kind of, what I do is I like to just wrap it around. Try and make sure I get the excess underneath. Keep a little bit of tension on it. You're going to have quite a bit of excess usually when it comes to the higher strings. Put tension on it. And I'm going to change hands here to make this a little bit easier on me. Okay, once you start detecting a little bit of tension, you want to kind of turn, but you want to maybe push on that push pin down there a little bit to make sure it's not going to pop out. And we're not worried about tuning right now. So we're just going to get some good tension on there. We'll set that guy down, grab our little snips, because this guy gets in the way. And that's how you change a string. Let's go ahead and let's get all the rest of the strings done. Okay guys, now we have the next step, which is actually going to be getting the guitar in tune. And there is a process that I go through on that as well. This can be kind of a scary process because it feels like you can't go any further, and a lot of people are afraid that maybe they're going to, you know, break a string or whatever. I've never done that before, but just take it nice and slow, let it just slowly adjust, and you'll start hearing a lot of stretching going on down here where you feel like you're not getting anywhere. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to start with our high E string, which now is coming in at C sharp, so that means we have to go up a little bit. Okay, that one's there. The B string is actually coming in on G, so we're going to tune that one up. Okay. This one's gonna have to come up quite a bit. Okay, so now we're one time through and getting him into tune. Doesn't sound in tune, does it? All right, so we gotta turn around and do it again. A lot easier this time. Now let's listen to it. Still not done though. Now, what I like to do is take every one of the strings and tug up on them a little bit. Do that for about a little less than 10 seconds on each one of them, just to be able to get rid of that extra tension that's there. And once you do this, you go back and tune it, it's probably not going to be out of tune. And there are those of you out there that probably disagree with my technique, but I can tell you, my guitar rarely goes out of tune except for in instances of humidity changes or dryness. Last string here. All right, let's go back and check the tuning now. Little flat, bring it up. Quite a bit flat. That one's pretty good. Little flat. Really flat. Getting all that tension out of there. That one's really flat. All right, let's take a listen now. Sounds great. Hey guys, guys, I hope you learned something educational today on how to change your strings. It is definitely not my top 10 favorite thing to do, but it is very rewarding once you're all done because you've actually got a very, very nice sounding guitar. But that's all I have for you guys today. God bless, take care. Don't forget, if you haven't subscribed, please go ahead and do so, share, like, and everything else. We'll see you on the next video, and don't forget, practice what you have to so you can play what you want to. Boom.